So as we get closer to the release of Tron Ares, we are getting more and more plot details and looks at the new film. But one thing that has remained more secretive than usual is the role of Kevin Flynn. Now, as you guys probably know by now, Kevin Flynn is just about as prominent of a character as Tron through the whole Tron franchise, but we really don't know much about his inclusion in Tron Ares. We do already know that Jeff Bridges is returning, that's been confirmed, but you would think that for someone who has such a big role in this franchise, we would have a bit more information on how Jeff Bridges is actually returning, especially considering that as far as we know, Kevin Flynn and Clue actually died at the end of Tron Legacy. This also means we don't exactly know who Jeff Bridges is going to be returning as. And that's what we're here to talk about today, because I think that this is one of the biggest debates of the Tron Ares film so far. We are all just so confused on how Jeff Bridges is even returning. From the beginning, I've always wanted Jeff Bridges to return in Tron 3, or now it's Tron Ares. But so it doesn't take away from his death in Tron Legacy, I always kind of imagined that his role would be more of a flashback sequence in the 1980s. Maybe something related to NCOM, Sam, the Shiva laser, or something entirely new. But I never in a million years expected for him to fully return in one of his past roles. Now, in the recent Empire Magazine August issue, Jeff Bridges has actually opened up a little bit about his role in Tron Ares. He mentions that he was also a little bit surprised on how he can actually return to this franchise. He adds that this is the grid, the whole digital universe is all up for grabs, it's all possible in that place, and it worked out that he has some sort of consciousness. But how does he still have consciousness? Well, let's go back to Tron Legacy. This all happens at the end of the film when Kevin, Cora, and Sam are all trying to escape through the portal, but Clue stands in their way. Kevin realizes that there's no way all three of them are going to make it through the portal at once, so taking his own advice, he separates himself from the equation and sacrifices himself so his son and honestly honorary daughter at this point, Cora, can make it through the portal. And to make sure that Sam and Cora actually make it through the portal safely, he performs reintegration on Clue. It was briefly mentioned earlier in Tron Legacy from Cora that if Kevin Flynn tried to reintegrate with Clue, he would never survive the event. Now, as you can see here, once Kevin actually reintegrates with Clue, it almost looks like he's merging with him. And after one of the most badass moments in the entire film, it's followed by a giant explosion destroying the entire grid except for the portal. And we thought that was that for Kevin Flynn, but obviously that's not true since he is confirmed to return, but I don't think it's going to be the same Kevin Flynn that we all remember. Instead, I actually think that it's him and Clue merged into one entity. And I know this sounds odd, but think about it. We thought Kevin Flynn died because he merged with Clue, so it only makes sense that if Kevin Flynn and Clue survived the events of Tron Legacy, they will return as one person. And I think that this is such a cool idea because if you think about it, it's going to be a constant battle between the best parts and worst parts of Kevin Flynn fighting for full consciousness. And if this were to happen, we don't even know what side Flynn would even be on, because if Clue is merged with Flynn, then he might actually side with the Dillinger grid. Because if you recall, all that Clue wanted at the end of Tron Legacy was to invade the real world. Well, not necessarily invade, but at least make the real world open to all programs. And I mean, let's be honest, he would have invaded after seeing the real world for 3 minutes. Now, obviously, he wouldn't be the main villain of Tron Ares because we already have a couple villains lined up. All I'm trying to say is that if we see Kevin Flynn again, which of course we will, I don't think we're going to see the same Kevin Flynn we all remember ever again. The only thing that certainly remains of Kevin Flynn is his body. And we know that he has the same body because we saw this in the D23 trailer from last year, which I can't actually show footage of for copyright reasons. What we do see in the trailer is Kevin Flynn and Ares, and we know it's Kevin Flynn because he has that same beard from Tron Legacy. So I don't think that the body is Clue, because while Clue does age, he does not age physically, meaning he can't have any facial hair. But what we also see in that trailer is Kevin Flynn with purple circuitry, and in the background we also see the interior of a tank from Tron 1982. So now this begs the question if we're going to be going to the NCOM game grid, and if so, how is Flynn there? Now, I do want to add that when we saw Kevin Flynn in the old trailer from last year, outside of the tank, it did look a lot more like Flynn's grid from Tron Legacy. To be fair, this also might be because the last time we saw the NCOM game grid was, well, 1982, so it might just look a bit more similar to Flynn's grid because the visuals are upgraded. However, Tron Ares isn't even out yet, so we don't even know. It could be intentional that these grids look so similar. So I'm almost wondering if there's a possibility that the NCOM game grid and Flynn's grid could be merging. Now, before Jeff Bridges was confirmed to return in Tron Ares, another character that I thought would have survived the events of Tron Legacy was Tron. Now, I know that Bruce Boxleitner pretty much confirmed that Tron would not return in Tron Ares, or at least Bruce Boxleitner wouldn't return in Tron Ares. But let's be honest here, if Disney were to keep him as a secret character, he would have to deny that he's in the movie. And for the sake of theories, let's just entertain the possibility that Tron could return in this film. Now, for the past 5 minutes, we've been talking about how Kevin Flynn could have survived the events of Tron Legacy, but like I said, I think Tron could have easily survived the events of Tron Legacy, and here here's why. When Clue and Flynn blew up the entire grid because of reintegration, Tron was actually technically not on the grid. He was inside of the Sea of Simulation. And to be honest with you, I think this would actually protect a program because we actually never saw the explosion expand into the Sea of Simulation. On top of this, in Tron Legacy at the end of the explosion, we see a few things remaining, including the portal, the terrain of the grid, and the sea. So I genuinely believe that Tron could have survived here. Now the reason I actually brought Tron up into this whole video is because, well, first of all, I think that if Kevin Flynn survived in Tron Legacy, that Tron did too. But I also believe that he could be related to that whole merging grids theory that I had earlier. So in Tron Legacy, Kevin tells his son Sam that Tron was created by Alan for the old system, and that Kevin brought back this program to protect his grid. Now instead of this being the exact same version of Tron from Tron 1982, he was actually first upgraded by Kevin Flynn, then brought over to his personal server. So as far as we know, the original Tron from the NCOM game grid is probably still in that system. So if we were to see the original NCOM game grid return, or even a merged version of that grid, there is a decent chance that we could see that version of Tron return too. Now the Tron that we see in Tron Legacy or even Tron Uprising at this point doesn't seem to remember anything from the old system. You'd think we'd see him at least mention Yori one time, but we don't. So I'm willing to bet on the fact that he doesn't remember anything from the old system. Yes, I think this does mean that the Tron we see in Flynn's grid and the Tron that we see in the NCOM game grid are two entirely different programs. So if the grids actually do merge like I've said a couple times in this video, I think that the Tron we see in Tron Uprising and Legacy and the Tron from the old system will become one program. And I mean, this is also because when you have two programs of the same name, they overwrite one another. And I think this could be a really cool way of restoring all of Tron's memories that he forgot from the old system. Anyways, I wanted to make this theory video because most people are probably wondering how Kevin Flynn could possibly return. And I do think the theories that I've explained today are pretty good possibilities, and I do also think that Tron could actually return even if Bruce Boxleitner is denying it. I genuinely think this could be a Spider-Man No Way Home situation because even if he was in the film, he wouldn't be allowed to say if he is in the film. But I also just might be coping. Now these theories could always change because we've only seen two trailers from Tron Ares, the one at D23 and the one back in April. I really want to come back to some of these theories when the next Tron Ares trailer drops, especially because Disney's being so secretive about how Kevin Flynn returns and the NCOM game grid. Anyways, that's it for me today, and I'll see you guys next time. End of line.